AEW Full Gear is come and gone. Let's put this on the table. Was this a perfect show? No. It was not a perfect show, ladies and gentlemen. If anybody thinks this was a perfect show, 10 out of 10, I don't agree with you because it was not. But it was close. There were several things that had not been done properly, but still, the show still ended up very good. And I gotta say this. I know Survivor Series is coming up, and I know TakeOver is coming up as well. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna watch TakeOver. I might watch TakeOver. But when it comes down to it, Survivor Series doesn't look good. And seeing this show for what I just got, that, yes, it was over 3.5 hours. This was like 3 hours and 30 to 40 minutes. It went near 4 hours. And that is near WWE madness time. Can't stand it. But, just like the crowd, it was more than tolerable because it gave you everything you would generally like. People who like seeing blood are going to like this. People who like seeing good wrestling are going to like this. People who like seeing high flying are going to like this. Storytelling is so-so in this, and that's where the major issue is coming from. Because the storytelling, and I'll explain what I mean, because I know people are going to say, there was storytelling. Yes, there was, but not to the extent that you expect it to be. But in the end, this was a show that was easily near 10 out of 10. It is not a 10 out of 10. And now, if I don't forget the rating, but it was not 10 out of 10, but it was damn close to a 10. It was. Let's open with the kickoff show. Britt Baker versus Priestley. It was an okay match. But this was not about the match. This was about the returning Awesome Kong with Brandy coming down to the ring after Britt Baker beat Priestley clean in the ring using that mandible claw hold. That is one hell of a hold. That is a hold. 2 holds in one, and I like that. But you got Priestley getting nailed by Kong and then getting her hair cut off. I have no idea where they're going with. Where are they going with Brandy? I don't know. But at least they are doing something with the women, but I am not fond of the problem they have with the women. And this was shown in the show. Now, the first match was the Young Bucks versus the now, I didn't hear the name before, Pride and Power. PP. I'm calling them PP. You want to call them P&P? I'm calling them damn PP. They're PP. They should have stayed at Santana and Ortiz. Pride and Power. PP, PNP, PP. I'm sorry, they're going to get it. PP. Was it a good match? Yes, it was. But what does it actually give us? It does give us a build going into maybe the next feud that we will get. Well, it's obvious that SCU is going to have issues with them. I'll explain what I mean by that because you already know the ending of this. Well, maybe you don't. You haven't seen it. Just looking at my review. I'll be surprised. You need to see the show. But if you have seen the show, you already know what happened with that. And I will get to that in a moment. But when it comes to Pride and Power, it was a good match for what it was. And it was... It was a good show. It was a good showing. And the Young Bucks lost, which is a good thing. Because Pride and Power needs to be done well. Because they need to keep the Inner Circle strong. But they need a feud. Pride and Power. Excuse me. Pride and Power need a feud. Still this throat. Anyway. You need a feud for Pride and Power, separate from the Inner Circle dealing with the Elite. I know you're going to say, well, the Elite needs to be done. I know they do, but then they don't. Because pretty much they gotten their asses handed to them. But that's just me. You guys tell me below. Next, Pac versus Hangman Page. I'm sorry. I'm being honest here. Hangman Page does not feel like a cowboy. He just doesn't. He doesn't have it. He doesn't feel like a cowboy. If you look at Cowboy James Storm and NWA Power, I forgot to do the review, guys. I'm going to try and do the review tomorrow morning because I forgot all about it. I just forgot. But when you look at Cowboy James Storm, he's not dressed as a cowboy, but you can feel the bad guy cowboy in him. Here, with Hangman Page, you just don't feel it. I don't feel it from him. It's not there. Doesn't mean he isn't a great wrestler. He just doesn't feel like a cowboy. What did we get? We get Hangman Page. I don't understand why he won. Why would you let Hangman Page win when Pac should have been the one that wins? Obviously, Pac feels more like a bastard, like an evil guy, compared to what Hangman Page is trying to be as a cowboy. He just doesn't feel like a cowboy. He doesn't feel like a Blackjack Mulligan. He does not feel like a Billy Gunn when he was part of the Young Guns. It wasn't about the clothing. It was about the persona. And he doesn't feel like a cowboy. He doesn't feel like he means something with his persona. He just doesn't. I can feel the bastard in a Pac. I cannot feel the cowboy in an Hangman Page. I just can't. And seeing Pac lose makes no sense. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry, guys. I don't approve of it. I just don't get it. I don't approve of it. The match was very good. If you've seen some of the shots I got, because I got over 150 shots, guys. Legitimately, I did 150 shots. You will see through this video, I worked my butt off for you guys. I can't believe I said that. But you get my point. It was a great match, but it still made no sense for Hangman Page to win. Now, another match with a guy with a persona that doesn't make any sense. Joey Janela versus Shawn Spears. Shawn feels like an evil guy, a sadistic guy. When you look at Pac, he looks like a bastard, someone that would do anything and everything. Look at Spears, he feels like a bastard. He feels like sadistic bastard. Not much different than Pac. You could say they're similar in some ways. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing them both work together as a tag team. The Sinister Bastards would actually be something interesting. But when you look at Joey Janela, he's supposed to be a hardcore wrestler. No, I don't feel hardcore wrestler from him. I feel showman, but not hardcore wrestler. He does not feel like one. He's already had a match against Moxley and he lost. He already had a match against Omega and he lost. And now he had a match against Spears and lost. And that spike pile driver that Spears did with Tully Blanchard by his side was nice outside. It worked. And I know people are going to say, well, if you're like that, what about the rest of the stuff that Joey Janela did when he got his ass whooped in this match? At least until he began to get back. Yes, he did. But he doesn't feel like a hardcore wrestler. Let's be honest here. Eddie Edwards feels like a hardcore wrestler compared to Joey Janela. Tommy Dreamer obviously looks and feels like a hardcore wrestler. Hardcore Holly felt like a hardcore wrestler. Joey Janela doesn't feel like one. He doesn't. He just doesn't. And the thing that gets me, like for both these matches, when it came to Pac and it came to Spears, the build for both of them were not very good. Because most of it, or all of it, was done on AEW Dark. I haven't seen it because I haven't had time to look at AEW Dark. I know it's on the 5th episode. I can go and check it out. But I don't always have the time to look at everything. It's just not something I do. And if you're going to make these feel important, you need to build it on the main show. As much as you build on AEW Dark, you need to build it here. You need to make it mean something. This is where I believe they're falling on their faces here. They're not building very well. Now, the next match is Private Party versus SCU versus the Lucha Brothers. It was a great match. But I gotta say this about Private Party. I do like them. Cassidy and Quinn They're great, but I do believe they're very green, and they truly need more time to develop. They did do very well in House of Glory. They taught them very well, and that's the same promotion from JD NYC. He's from that promotion, and I'm sure they were trained very well while they were there. But I'm going to be honest here. They're not ready. Even though the match was very good from the scenes you watched, when it came down to it, they're not ready yet. And I wasn't expecting SCU to job here. So in the end, SCU retained, but you got a little twist at the end because Christopher Daniels is back. He was dressed as Pentagon Jr. And then he beat up Pentagon Jr. He beat up on Phoenix, and then he took off the mask, which really made it nice. Angel Wings is back. I believe that's the best way to say it. This was a good match. And I'm sure that even though I did say that SCU should be dealing with Pride and Power PP. I'm tired, guys. So I'm going to be honest here. I'm tired, and I'm going to make fun of Pride and Power every time I hear it. But still, I do believe that the feud between the Lucha Brothers and SCU is going to have to move away eventually. I don't want them to be together too long. Pride and Power need a feud because Santana and Ortiz still somewhat feel irrelevant. Not because they're not great wrestlers. It's because they're not LAX anymore. And their personas really still feel a bit weak. They need be more legitimate. But this is just me. You guys tell me below. Alright. This was the third best match of the night. And the major problem for me was that there was no build whatsoever. It got a video package. And I'm talking about Rio versus Sakura. It hurt my heart, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being honest here. I want to see women's wrestling treated with respect. Look at the WWE right now. It's garbage. You only got an NXT. And how long is that going to last? I don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know how long NXT is going to last the way it is. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm hoping it will last longer than what it is. And when we see this match, that it was done so well. The women went out there and they busted their butts. This was the best women's match I have seen in 9 months. And that's saying a lot. This was the best match. It literally strips WrestleMania. I know people are going to say, what? Yes. It wasn't the fact that it was a lot of high flying and a lot of impact. It was that it was done and executed well by a 22-year-old and a 43-year-old who know each other so well. They were able to motivate the crowd more better than I saw with Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair. And I know that's going to say a lot. And I liked the match at WrestleMania. It wasn't 100% bad. But when you see this compared to the ring work of them, it's obvious 100% that this was a superior match. But the major problem compared to the WWE is at least they built it. They gave the women something to work from. They only just gave these women a video package here. Here. I don't care about AEW Dark. You're supposed to put a video package on Dynamite to make me interested in Rio. To make me interested in Sakura. And I didn't get it. So when I looked at this match, I was angry. Not because the match was bad, but because the match had no build. It was ridiculously stupid. They didn't do it right. If they think they're going to get away with putting every video package or any promo, anything on AEW Dark and not put one on the main show, they're not going to last long. But the match was the third best match of the night, hands down. They managed to motivate the crowd so well that you got, I think Emmy Sakura loves Joey Mercury. Not Joey Mercury. I forgot his name. Look, you know when someone loves Queen, you know they love Mercury. And she loves Mercury. She was singing most of the time. And she managed to get the crowd so invested in her winning that she managed to get them to sing we will rock you. And anything else she wanted in that ring eventually. That takes a lot, particularly that we're talking about two Japanese wrestlers who generally don't speak probably very good English or any English at all. And without anybody to help them, they managed to get them to cheer and sing. I didn't expect Sakura to win here. But that hurts, that there was no story behind it. The teacher and the student, yes, that is the story, but they could have built into that. They could have built into it. They could have gotten an interpreter to translate something in the back for them, and that pissed me off, but it was still a beautiful match. Now, we got, let's see, am I forgetting anything before I move on? Because there wasn't a huge amount of matches here, but I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything because I have a tendency to. There was an interview, but I'm going to leave the interview alone because I know that Forbes and Sabine were talking and they're in my face. But I'm going to leave for that because I don't know them very well and I don't want to have any opinion yet until I see them on Dynamite. Now, if they're on AEW Dark, tell me below, and then I'm going to have to see if I can have time to actually see them talk and see the wrestling from both of them. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to talk about either one of them because I think it's Saberman. It's the first time I saw them, guys. So, the next match, which was the second best match of the night, and it was the first match of the night that was the best overall because of the emotion. So, ring work, second best match of the night. It was the best match of the night because of its emotion in that respect. All around emotion with the best ring work. That was Cody versus Y2J for the AEW Championship. Now, I expected that a lot of people were not going to like the beginning to near the middle of the match because it was slow. It was a slow beginning. Excuse me. And I know that people are not fond of slow matches that much anymore. They're not. They're just not fond of slow matches. And I think that's a lost art. That's a shame that people don't understand. Sometimes you should build into a match with slow work and then really make it mean something. So people who didn't like it, I'm not surprised. For me personally, I didn't have a problem with it. Not because I'm an old ass man, because I'm the type of person that likes, sometimes if you got a really good story, you need to slowly build into it. And what made the story really interesting wasn't that it had a great build going into it. We already know Cody was not going to go after the title again as long as Chris is champ. It wasn't implied, but it's obvious. As long as Chris Jericho is champ, Cody's not going after the title. He's just not going to happen. So when Cody comes down with I love MJF. I love him, and I'll explain why. But when you got Hager and MJF at ringside, they didn't really interfere much. Not until the middle to the end with Hager when he got ejected. What made the match really interesting was Cody doing a suicide dive over the top ring rope to get Chris, and he whacks his skull directly into the ramp, and he starts bleeding. You see him in my face. That is when the entire match picked up. Not either it was planned, which it could have been, or this was clearly by accident. 100% of an accident. My guess is I think this was accidental because the minute he turned over, he started bleeding. There was not enough time for him to cut and slit himself because that's how they do it sometimes. It was not enough time. No way. I don't believe there was enough time for him to do it. I think he legitimately hurt himself. But I could be wrong. You guys can tell me below what you think. But once the blood flowed, and then when Chris started messing with his right rib, that is when the match really became highly charged and emotional. Everyone was behind Cody. Yes, there were a few moments of lull in the match, and it was required. You had to make it feel like, and this is Cody and Chris, you had to make it feel like this match was supposed to be so damn important that Cody would do anything to win that title. Taking injury, having a hard time to breathe, bleeding from the head, getting hit in the ribs over and over again until he actually started showing bruising. That made the match special. It did. It helped immensely next to what was going on with the story. By the time near the end, when Chris finally put him into the second time, because he put him in the walls of Jericho already twice, he first does the sharpshooter. Then he does the walls of Jericho, not once, but roughly about twice. I think it might have been near a third time, but it was stopped. But the second time he was putting the walls of Jericho, he was bent. His head was being bent beyond reason. You can see it in my face. And at one point, Chris was stomping on his head. And it was MJF who decided to throw in the towel and stop the match. And Chris retained his title, which I even left in my notes before, and I want to make this clear. I'm not in the camp of other people that are going to be angry that Cody didn't win. I personally believe that Cody should have not won right now. Not only because it's too soon for Chris to drop the title, but for him to have a real story arc. It needs to take a year or more. I say a year and a half before he finally claims that title. He needs time to prove that, yes, he is one of the people who runs AEW management, but he needs to prove that he deserves that title, that he has to go through all that madness before he finally claims it and honors his father. That is the right story arc. And in this situation, and it made perfect sense, because we've been wondering when MJF was going to turn. Because MJF was begging for forgiveness, saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He's in my face. I'm so sorry. I just could not let you suffer. And Cody was okay. And then Cody gets it in the nuts with a nice kick. Unfortunately, I don't got that shot. I just got him laid on the floor. Everyone hated MJF to the point that when he was walking up the ramp, he turns around and poses. Someone throws beer on him. Flat out, he was that pissed. Beautiful. That is how you make a real story. Such incredible emotion that you piss off a fan so bad that they're willing to start throwing things at you. Of course, you don't want to see a person get hurt when whoever works in the ring. I don't want to see MJF hurt. But in that situation, it was perfect. He needed to be treated that way. And he shrugged it off like, I don't care. It was perfect. And Cody was so devastated. Devastated. This makes perfect sense. You know what would be perfect? You would have Cody dealing with Brandy after this, and she doesn't want to have nothing to do with him. It would be perfect. Perfect. That now even Brandy turns her back on him, and Awesome Kong is in his face. He won't harm Kong because, one, she would kick his ass. That is what the story would be. But Brandy said, you're nothing but a damn loser. I don't want nothing to do with you. And walks away with Kong and goes off to do whatever she wants in the women's division. And Cody is legitimately all on his own with only the elite. That would be the perfect way to make this mean something even more. Leading up to next year, to maybe the year after that, halfway into the year after that, say 2021 or late 2020, around the same time as this, he finally gets the title. That would be the best payout as far as I'm concerned. Finally, this was the best match of the night. WWE is in such big trouble. I don't know how they're going to top that match. I don't. Going into, and I'm not even talking about Survivor Series. We're talking about TakeOver, because everyone sees that TakeOvers are way better than the regular WWE roster pay-per-views. They just are. And when it comes down to it, TakeOver is going to have one hell of a hard time trying to follow this match. No matter what match it is on their card, this match was well beyond anything that anyone would have seen in quite a while. This match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley was not only the best match of the night, it was the thing that led all the way beyond 11 o'clock, going almost into 12. Oh. And the kicker was, the crowd did not lose interest. This crowd stayed, kept going up and up and up and up. and plateaued and stayed there until finally it was over. And then when they were exhausted, whoosh, that's when it was over, because that's when the match was over. That's how far it went, because they had regular fighting in the match. Because this was a, what is it called again? A lights out match, which is unsanctioned. Because the story they had was not a bad one. You want Kenny Omega to go up against someone who is so pissed. This is the story. You got Jon Moxley, who went from WWE to the Indies. He was so disgruntled. He was so pissed off. He was so angry. He was treated so badly by the biggest company. And they even put that into the promo segments of the video packages. That, hey, this guy left. Pissed off, couldn't stand what had happened to him in the biggest company. And he set the indie wrestling community on fire. But it doesn't mean he's better than anybody. It doesn't mean he's better than me. And you want to try and come to me? No problem, because I love it. And that is how it got started. That match where it reached a point at first. They went and got barbed wire bat and a barbed wire boom. That's what we were waiting for. And once they start cutting each other up, it was pretty good. Then they got the not rat trap. They looked like mice traps. They didn't look like they were fully set, but they looked like it might have hurt. Then it reached again when broken. Well, I'll take it back. You got Kenny Omega going under the ring, looking, searching for something, and he finds what he wants. I thought it was going to be thumbtacks like every other time, just like everybody else. No. Glass. He takes a piece of glass, which is probably candy glass. Of course, it's candy glass. Didn't want to hurt each other that bad. Tries to cut his hand. Well done. Then he shatters it and spreads it across the ring. And they spend a good 5 to 8 minutes just messing in the ring, falling onto that, hurting each other with that. They focused as much as they could on making as much of an impact in the ring as they could until they went outside the ring and did their business, came back into the ring again, continued their business, then went back outside the ring. And it reached a point, there was so much that was being done, that Kenny, by this point, had gotten, well, let me take it back. Jon Moxley found possibly an ice pick, tried to stab Kenny with it. Didn't work. Kenny got the ice pick, stabs a Jon Moxley in the head, and it's in my face. I'm putting a lot of stuff in my face. Oh my goodness, I'm giving myself so much work to do. But in the end, what it came down to, they were at the top of the ramp. Kenny calls for the Bucks as well as Hangman Page, and he says, bring it out. And they're begging him not to listen. They're pleading with him not to listen. They're asking him not to listen. And with one of the Bucks injured, having a limp, and I know I didn't say that in that part of the review, but one of the Bucks did have a limp. I forgot. But they brought out the barbed wire bed. Barbed wire trampoline. That's what it looked like. It looked like a trampoline frame and all barbed wire. And you think Kenny Omega's going to be able to throw Moxley in? Nope. Moxley and Kenny Omega both go in together. And it takes them a good 3 to 4 minutes to try and dig them out of it. Let's say about 3 minutes. Once they were out of it, they were still fighting. Hell, Jon Moxley punched out one guy, shoved another back, still fighting Omega, and then Omega went and kicked him straight into the sign that's lit. It's like Full Gear. It was like the sign Full Gear. And he kicked him straight in the face, and they both went through it. By that time, we were already 11:30. We were 11:30, ladies and gentlemen, and then they went back to the ring again, and basically Moxley got sick of this. He cut up the canvas of the ring, peeled back the foam mat, and exposed wood, and they just started going from there. It had reached a point where we got a 450 splash from Kenny Omega. Didn't work. We had at least 2 DDTs. I know I can use their names, but I think I want to use it in this respect because it wasn't about the names of the moves. This was about how they were going to make it look that they had to destroy one another. When it finally came down to it, Moxley won. That was art. I'm guessing that's the best way to say this. This was art. Something we haven't seen in quite a while. Now, I'm not saying that we haven't had matches like this before in the last 5 or 6 years. We had. But as you see them in my face, this epitomizes what the WWE is not doing. It's not the fact that we haven't seen these type of matches before. It's that when you look at the guys in the ring, and the girls in the ring as well, they want to do this because they enjoy it. They're not like the WWE right now where the people there are just going through the motions most of the time. They're just going through the motions. And they're depressed and sad. I felt energy from these matches. Yes, the storytelling sucked. Rio and Sakura should have had a real build. Joey Janela with Spears. Why was it only on AEW Dark? They should have built it more here before actually having it. They could have waited until December to do this and just built them more. Any of these people. But we didn't get that. So what did we have? We clearly had a great pay-per-view. And honestly, I say it's nearly 8.5 out of 10. The main problem for me was the storytelling. And I know I could say it's a 9 out of 10, but I'm going to put it 8.5. Because when it comes down to it, you needed more video packages on this show to sponsor some of these things, and you didn't do it. Something for Spears and Joey Janela. They didn't even put anything for them. When it came to Pac, you didn't really do much with Pac when it came to Hangman Page. You just let them come out. There was no video package for them. Even if it was only about 1 minute video package to build into it. And I know this was a very heavily packed show. You could have shortened some of these matches a little bit to make sure the video packages make it interesting. So it feels like you gave them stories instead of just gave them matches. So I'm giving it 8.5 out of a 10. I don't normally give a rating because it's not something I do. But in this situation, I had to. It was necessary in this situation. If you see this show, 1, make sure you got a bathroom break because you're going to need it. 2, make sure that you eat something because you're going to be hungry because I'm starving right now. I haven't eaten anything. I wanted to watch the show. I didn't want to miss anything. So when it comes down to this was an incredibly good show. It wasn't perfect. Nope. It was not perfect. It wasn't. But it's way better than anything I've seen in the last 9 months. Period. Other than AEW, when it comes to WWE, this is the best show I've seen in a very long time. But this is just my point of view. You guys tell me below. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace.